Hello there, my delicious darlings, and welcome back. It is a pleasure to see you again. I always love October, although the month seems to get busier with every year that passes. In addition to finding and translating spooky poems to share with you, I have been busy writing scary and supernatural stories. I hope to share some of those with you at a later date. I have also been preparing surprises for any trick-or-treaters who decide to drop by. I am so excited to spend my first Halloween with the new member of my family, a panther kitten. He seems to be really enjoying the seasonal preparations. What have you been up to over the past week? Are you decorating for Halloween? Planning a party? Going to attend a haunted house or ghost experience? Or are you just planning to stay tucked up safely at home until the spooks and screams have safely passed you by? I would love to hear from you in the comments. Once again, this week, we are delving into the world of shrieks and scares. As we are close to my favorite, spookiest day of the year, I have chosen 2 creepy poems. Both are based around legends, one centered in the east of the world and the other in the west. More startlingly, both legends are reputed to be true. Are they genuine? Well, I will leave it to you to judge that. After all, you never know what invisible presence might be listening and ready to be angered. Let us begin. The Lady of the Lily Lake. She is so lovely, brave, bright, and beautiful. As her bare feet walk around the black lake, you might think her an ordinary woman, but that would be a very grave mistake. Not only because she's slight, pale, and lovely, with huge dark eyes and an unsmiling face, or because she drifts on the chill evening air, like an airy phantom made out of lace, but because the poor girl has a history. One of the saddest I have ever heard. Once, she was the toast of an entire city, with a voice as sweet and clear as a bird's. Cruel rumors said she had a dozen lovers, and dangled them like kittens on a string, but never cared for someone until she met a man as poor as those who lived begging. Still, he had a voice low, gentle, and pleading. With reverential words, he stole her soul, until she could not breathe without his warm glance. When she touched his skin, then she became whole. The world loathed him. She gave not a fig for it, nor the man who'd once enjoyed her for pay. Her old bedmates despised the peasant poet. Time and again, they sought to make him stray, parading before him gorgeous young lovelies. Every time, the man refused to betray the woman. That made them hate the man further. So the pair decided to run away. There was danger, so the lovers decided to meet at the very stroke of midnight, after the lady's last singing performance. That way, nobody would witness their flight. For their meeting place, they chose the Lily Lake, that stood near a temple outside of town. It was a place they found peaceful and lovely, a place from which they'd happily be flown. From there, they'd take the money she had accrued and set their sights on a land far away, where no one would be set against their coupling, and seek them out, determined they should pay. So, as the lady waited, she almost danced, to think that her beloved would be near, that she would feel his breath upon her shoulders, and hear his voice whispering in her ear. Except, as the moments ticked on, the air chilled. Minutes crawled past, each one of them a pain, until the dear lady began to fear that something had happened to part them again. Perhaps bandits had attacked her beloved. He must have been hurt, or he would be here. She prayed under her breath, muttering softly, beseeching the gods, look out for her dear. Then back into town, the lady went running, her loving heart afire in her chest. She was heading for the small, run-down cabin. That was the home of him she loved the best. The quickest route, for it was situated down a long road from the ornate town hall. When she passed by its light and bright main window, what she saw within almost made her fall, insensible with grief. Her lover was there. On a silk couch, a lady on each knee. Drink on his hand. The mayor sat next to him. And he was counting out paper money into her lover's palm. She knew at once what had taken place. Her lover had been bribed. And he'd thought twice of fleeing from the township. The women were surely part of the prize that he had won by giving up on their love. They did not match the singer's great beauty, but they were young, merry, of easy virtue, and her true love caressed them happily. The singer covered her mouth, smothering screams, and fled sobbing back the way she had come. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think or reason, but there was no way she was going home. She wouldn't smile at those who had destroyed her, pretend complacence, sing and bend the knee, then walk calmly to their hated bedchambers, who sought to use her beauty and body. So back to the dark lake she went, gasping sobs. She paused where pink lilies scented the air. There, she knelt and washed her face in the water. Then, huddled forward, collapsed in despair. "I cannot live longer," the lady whispered. As she spoke it, she recognized the truth. She had survived much since, a poor orphan child. She'd been picked out for her beauty and youth, and sent to study poise, music and dancing, with teachers who taught their lessons with canes. She'd become rich and envied, watched and wanted, but she could not survive that pain again. She stepped into the lake, not heeding the chill. She waited till the water reached her knees. The lake was cold, but as it reached her slim waist, she started to feel a measure of peace. When it reached her throat, she paused, heart thundering, her sorrow and need warring with her life. She waited a long moment, then plunged forward, and let the water erase all her strife. The lady drowned herself. Come the next morning, the people found her body by the shore, pale and lovely, like a discarded flower, unable to cheer a soul anymore. They took her from the lake and laid her in earth, but in the black water, her spirit stayed. So now lovers are warned not to venture near the lake, no matter how loyal the maid, how stalwart and adoring her gentleman. If either in the slick black water played, or if the pair rowed a boat through the lilies, soon friends and family would watch dismayed, to see once serene love blow up and burn down, in a story too awful to relate, leaving those once delighted in floods of tears, fervor bemoaning their awful fate. So it was back then. Still centuries later, the anguish of the lady leaves its mark. Should you visit Japan with your beloved, you can go safely strolling in the park, but do not be convinced to touch the water, or you'll find yourself struggling to know how a forever love shattered to pieces and left you lost without that loving glow. The Bloody Pumpkin. She ran as fast as she could, but he caught her. The farmer's wife fell in the pumpkin patch, and although she sobbed and begged him to spare her, the madman's hungry axe went snicker-snack, till she lay dead. The woman's lovely children had been dragged by their raging father there, and despite their tears and their upturned faces, the axe had cleaved through bone and infant hair. No one heard the farmer's wife in her death throes. The farm stood a good 5 miles out of town. Mother and babes had been far beyond rescue. No one watched as he laid them in the ground. He left not so much as a cross of bound twigs to mark the place his once adored ones lay. Their blood had spattered the innocent pumpkins, but soon a cold rain washed it all away. You'd think that, after doing such a vile thing, the rage-filled man would have fled loath to prey, perhaps running to find some desert region where sandstorms might scour his guilt away. But no, after his act of cruel violence, the farmer's rage drained fully out of him. Yet, he had laid his kinfolk in the cold clay. Perhaps he even forgot his foul sin. He lived in the farmhouse all through November, through Christmas, until spring turned the earth green. He told those who asked. His wife had run away with the kids. So, until next Halloween, nobody questioned him. The world grew colder. Then orange pumpkins breached the earth again. People rang to ask when they would be ready, when they could come. Women, children, and men, to choose pumpkins for lanterns, decorations, and the baked sweets they'd make for Halloween. A wise man would have refused to do business. But the man wasn't just cruel. He was mean. He said he'd open in October's last week. He wouldn't lay the pumpkins out on shelves. Instead, people could come walk the icy fields and pick the fairest pumpkins for themselves. The price he named was astronomical. He asked at least 10 times what each one was worth. But to his surprise, people made no outcry. The cost only seemed to add to their mirth. So, on the 24th day of October, a week from the fun frights of Halloween, dozens of people trekked to the farmer's field and picked their way slowly across the green. For 5 days, all was jollity and laughter. Money was made, although some people found they struggled to sever vines from the pumpkins, as if they wished to stay bound to the ground. It was not until the 29th came round that others went to the house to complain. Apparently, they tried to pick a pumpkin, and the squash screamed. It even cried a name. The farmer left. He called it stuff and nonsense. He followed out the couple stood with them, and with his strong axe, freed their desired pumpkin. They made no sound when his swing severed them. The next day was October the 30th. More people visited the farm that day, wanting the largest pumpkins for Halloween. Before, the best were all carried away. Alas, no matter which one they selected, no one would on that day carry them home. Whenever someone sought to pluck a pumpkin, the earth underneath them began to groan. When they pulled further, angered by the delay, a fierce trembling spread out all around. Finally, a young man yanked the green roots up, and crimson blood came pouring from the ground. The farmer had slept late. At first, he didn't hear the screams and the sounds of feet running. Not until someone thundered up his porch steps, and the doorbell began to loudly ring. At first, the man was angry, but when he saw the horror that made the ringer's face white, his anger faded. He demanded to know what had happened on his farmland that night. The man spoke of the groaning and the screaming, and of the liquid ochre bubbling out of the rich brown soil of the farmer's field, and how it had sent the people running. A thrill of fear laced through the murderer's heart. He broke from the house and raced through the dark, through rows of pumpkins to the point in the field, where the graves of his victims had no mark. His instinct was right. In that exact place, he found shivering people gathered round. Right there, the sound of sobbing and loud screaming through the chilly air echoed all round. The farmer looked down, and in his trembling hand, he saw the axe he'd grabbed without thinking. He saw, it seemed, his dead family's faces, leering at him from inside a pumpkin. He chopped one, then another. He chopped and chopped. Fluid and pumpkin guts flew through the air. The last of the watchers fled from the scene at that. He barely noticed that they had been there. However, many pumpkins the man destroyed, he saw reflected an accusing face. So it was that he overlooked the thick vines, winding around his legs and every place. Before he knew it, he was knee-deep in soil. Not much longer, and he was buried deep in sanguinary ground with his family, lost to beetles and chilly worms that creep. When the police came on Halloween morning, the sky was lit with crimson by the dawn. There was no sign of blood or screams or begging. Only huge pumpkins clustered on the lawn. They were more glorious than anyone had seen in years before. Soon, everyone in the town, man, woman, or child, chose a jack-o'-lantern and set it out to flicker and to frown. The mayor himself picked one out for his place. It sat on his porch all Halloween night. An awful lantern with an agonized face. The farmer screaming through the autumn night. Subscribe to become a delicious darling. Hello again, my delicious darlings, and welcome back. What did you think of today's poems? When I read the first one, it really unnerved me. More than that, it made me deeply sad. The thought of the poor woman running, heartbroken, back to the lake just makes me want to throw my arms around her. How do you feel about the main character in each poem? Which, if either, do you think is the most sympathetic? I would love to hear from you in the comments. Today's word for those who finished the episode is Halloween. Right now, I am off to finalize my preparations for Halloween night. Have a great and cozy evening and a fantastic Halloween when it comes around. Sleep well, my delicious darlings.